Right, morning campers. Welcome back to the channel. It's a Saturday, so it must mean it's going to be a bike review or some such thing. It is, but it's not going to be the BSA Bantam that I'm on today. So do watch out for those videos which will be coming up. I'm going to be doing some direct comparison videos with the Hunter 350 and the GB 350. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on which bike I think is the best of the three. If there is one that's best, or they all as good at each other, who knows? We shall see. But I've got this bike for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to be doing, putting together a bit of content with this bike. And spoiler alert, I love it. It's such a great bike. But what are we looking at today? So we're going smaller, and we're going back to the old CVT days. So I've got the Zontes Zt125 out, and it's a great looking bike. It's you might have seen it on a previous video that I've had. It's a bit like the sort of KTM's, that sort of like insect look, isn't it? But fantastic little bike. So I thought we'd have a proper look at that, and yeah. So let's go and have a look around it, have a chat, and we'll go and do some riding. Go and relive some memories of riding 125s. Right, let's get on with that. Come on, let's go and have a look at the Zontes Zt125 ZT. Of course, cracking little bike. Come on. Right, so here we are, the Zontes Zt125. Now, I think this is the Z, what they call the ZU, so it's the high spec model. So you can see it's a fantastic looking bike, and I think with they've obviously been going for the KTM sort of angle here with their bikes to sort of attract that sort of young audience. But when you actually look over the bike, it's a phenomenal piece of kit. I'll show you around some of the things that it's got, which I think you'll find really, really interesting. And for a bike at this price, at sort of sub £3,500, it's pretty damn impressive. So starting at the back, so we've got 17-inch tubeless rims on the back, and it's the same on the front. A 130/70/17 tyre on here, so it's a nice profile, nice chunky tyre. When you look at all the standard of finish and all this sort of stuff, it's absolutely really superb. You can't knock that. You know, tubeless rims are the sort of thing that, you know, I don't know whether a 17-year-old would understand much about that, but tubeless rims really give it a real presence, doesn't it? I think it's really nice. You've got the usual sort of tail tidy on here. When you look at the finish, the seat, really nice. That's comfortable. It's a comfortable seat. Obviously, I say it's a little bit cramped for me, I would say, but I'm not sort of suffering with it at the end of the day. You've got that little 125 engine producing about 11 horsepower, just over 11 horsepower, so which keeps it compliant with the sort of CVT rules and that sort of stuff when you're first riding. There's no bash plate on here, but you've got the sort of standard sort of big box exhaust, what'll have all your gubbins in there, your sort of cats and things. The paintwork and finish is really nice, and you've got that lovely sort of setup on the front with the front disc, obviously ABS, and again your tubeless rim, upside down forks. It's the sort of thing that you'll get on a KTM, but you know, you're not paying for the nose for it. It's all here as standard. When you look at the dash, so it is a keyless start. So I've got a fob, which I just keep in my pocket. Come on this side, and you see what we're talking about. So there is a procedure in it, which luckily I did ask Billy's, and I'll say where this bike comes from in a minute. So to start the bike, you need to press that button there, that little red one, and then that brings out a dash. Lovely dash, really lovely. And you've got all your usual bits and pieces on here. Time, odometer, it's only got 11 miles on it, speed, revs, temperature and fuel on there. You've got your button here for the seat and the button there for the fuel cap. How cool is that? I'll just pop the seat back down. That's it. You've got set and mode buttons here, usual indicators, horn,
flasher, dip beam, that sort of stuff. But it's all the other bits you get a standard on here. You know, you've got handguards, and these are metal handguards. They're not the rubbishy sort of plasticky ones. Really good. Nice setup. You know, I like the profile of this. It's good. I like you got something in front of you. You know, you can't really argue with the quality of it. The fit and finish is absolutely superb. When you think what we used to have from China, you know, some of the early, what would I say, mutt and things like that, you know, which would rot away within 5 minutes. This is so much more than that. The Chinese have worked out the finish on bikes and what will make them actually last. But yeah, I think it's actually a really cool bike. Really cool bike. You know, if I'd had this when I started riding, you know, things would have been much different. Although, you know, I got to say I did enjoy my fizzy. So height-wise, you know, I'm about 5'11", so I'm well flat-footed on this. The funny thing is, when it does look like such a big bike from outside, but when you actually sit on it, it actually feels quite small. The one thing I would say is that these bars, these engine bars, you see how close they are to my shin. So, you know, people bigger than me might find them a little bit uncomfortable. I think I would actually remove those or try to extend them a little bit. It's an interesting thing why they've done that. But the actual ergonomics of the bike, it's a fantastic feel. When we go for a ride in a minute, you'll see what I mean. But with everything is where it should be. I like the fact that it's got the nice TFT screen. Plenty of buttons to keep the younger people occupied. For us older people, it's a bit hard work. But the actual controls and everything are really good. Also, the mirrors are really good as well. But the actual riding position, and actually when you're riding it anyway, the actual, you know, there's no rattles, bangs, cracks, anything on it. Do you know, it feels such a solid bike. When you compared it to, you know, like I said, some of those early bikes like the Mashes and stuff like that, this is such a huge step forward, It's really, really impressive. I can imagine, you know, it's a bit like that sort of, you know, Christmas Day feeling in it for a youngster who gets to see this for the first time, and you know, opens the door and sees this under the tree. You know, what an awesome piece of kit. So we've done enough talking about the bike. Come on, let's go and do some riding, because I think you'll find that actually it's quite an impressive piece of kit to ride. I wish I had this when I was a youngster. Come on, let's go for a ride.
So what's the bike actually like to ride? Well, I can't knock it really. I mean, I could compare it to things like the Honda CB125. I remember riding one of those for some time. And it's a much more sort of compact bike than that. The Honda, you know, just feels what it is. Just a very basic, you know, sit up and beg sort of bike. This one gives you a bit more feeling of sort of like, I don't know, that it's a bit more purpose to it really. You know, you got a lot of kit on here and there's all the bits and pieces that you got to play with, you know, all your function buttons and all the rest of it, which is okay, I think, if you're an experienced rider, but I think you can get a little bit, you know, distracted, if you like. Do all your adjustments before you sort of ride off. That's what I would say on these sort of bikes. But in terms of suspension, and that on here, it's great. It's really comfortable. It's quite quick to turn. You've got quite a short wheelbase, so you have to be very much aware of that. If you're used to driving or riding, you know, bigger bikes with different rake and longer wheelbases, they turn much more slower than this. So you've got to be quite aware of that. What I do like about it though is you've got 6 gears, and that's nice. It's not very common in bikes of this size. So, you know, a 6-speed box, which is really snappy and nice. You know, the clutch is lovely and light. The brakes have got plenty of feel. They're not harsh in any way. The bike is not heavy, and I'll put the specs up, but you don't want something which is, you know, you've got to think, oh, I need to start thinking about braking. Have I got to touch the brakes too hard? I don't get that with this. Everything is, you know, nice and easy. It's not a hard bike to ride. It's a very easy bike to ride, to just get on and do your thing. You haven't got to learn it too much, which sort of takes the hassle out, doesn't it, of doing your CVT and stuff like that. Grip wise, it's fine. I think the tyres are okay. I think I tend to find with a lot of these, if you like, replica type tyres, you got to let them sort of run in a little bit, just get a little bit of that coating off, and you'll find that they improve as they go on. But it's just funny, you're sort of wearing it rather than riding it, this bike. It feels so small when I'm sitting on it. It's quite funny, really. But you sort of get used to it. You get used to it. I can imagine if you're a smaller person than me in sort of size and height, that you'd find this a fantastic place to be. You really would. And it's sort of like when you look at it, you want to get on it. You think, oh, I want to get on it, I want to ride that. And you're not disappointed to get it. If this is the first bike you've ever ridden, I think you'd be, really pleasantly pleased, surprised by it. I think you'd think, oh yeah, that's cool. I like that. Let's try it on one of these little corners around this. I come here quite a lot around here. Just want to see it comes along. I'm going to drop it down a couple of cogs and just sort of go into the corner. Yeah, do you know, it rolls over nice. It rolls over really nice. Cool. I actually quite enjoyed that. I might go back and do that again in a minute. I remember a bike that I had some time ago. I had a Varadero. Do you remember the Varadero? Seems like an odd name now, doesn't it? The 125, which was the twin. What a phenomenal bike that was. And, I've looked at again recently to see if I could pick one of those up, just as a bit of a runaround bike. But finding a good one now is difficult, and they're expensive. You can always tell when a bike is really good, because even though it's been out of production for a long time, they're still sought after. It was an expensive, but it was a heavy bike. I think almost the frame was pretty much the same as it was on the 600. Was it? Did they do a 600 Varadero? It was a big piece of kit. But yeah, I used to love my Varadero. Going back through Curdford, love Curdford, lovely place. But it's it's a nice ride. It's a nice place to be. And as I said, it's an easy bike to get used to. There's nothing fierce about it. The throttle's really good. You used to get a lot of complaints, didn't you, about with throttles on sort of Chinese bikes. But those things are sort of a bit of a thing of the past now. I'm not getting that with this. It's holding the throttle nicely. It's not, even though if the road's a bit bouncy, I'm not getting any sort of on-off throttle with it. The clutch is lovely. The other thing like on this, you get adjustable levers and things like this on here. Blimey, what do you need for $3.5 grand? What a way to start your riding career on something like this. The styling is, whether you like that styling or not, you either go down the route of where sort of the mutt bikes. I don't know if anybody's still doing that sort of bike now. You used to get the little sort of scrambler style now, isn't it? Is anybody doing that now? Mutt's not with us anymore, I think. I might be getting that completely wrong. So we've then the Chinese are not really producing bikes in their own name in that style, are they? As such. So I think you're tending to get this sort of style now, the sort of KTM, which is what the younger people tend to want. Of course, the other thing with a bike like this is that it's water cooled. So you're getting that extra sort of punch out of the engine that you don't really get out of the air-cooled ones, because you can run higher compression, you can run your engine a little bit hotter. That's why it's very similar to the KTMs and that in that respect. So you're going to have a little bit more punch out of your bike with a bit of water cooling there. Nice, really nice. It does chug along nicely. Obviously, these bikes you're sort of restricted in your speed, aren't you, or the power output. But 45 miles an hour. Perfect. You don't feel like you're pushing the engine too hard. I mean, the red line on this is 9,500 and I'm chugging along at 6. And you still need to change down a gear because the gearing is fairly close. So you still get that, you get that experience of having to change up and down gears. And that's good practice, isn't it, for when you're getting onto big bikes, bigger engine bikes. And I think that's really nice, is that you learn that process of changing down gears, coming into corners, using your brakes, powering out of corners and stuff. And you can still get that with a bike like this. It still gives you that sort of experience. It's really nice. So would I recommend, say, the Zontes, the Zt125 to a young rider? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, why not? You know, I think for the money, you're getting huge value for money. And I think it's a bike that you might, even once you've done your CBT, you'll stick with it. I don't think you would feel left out by sticking with this for longer, getting some more experience on your bike. Because I think that's really important. You know, you can't beat riding experience. And even though you do your CBT, get more training. Do more training. I can't recommend that high enough. Whether you do things like IAMs, or you just do your, sort of regular, not advanced training, but just more training in general. Because most of these training centres will do that. They're not just going to give you CBT, they're going to give you training right the way through. And I think that's really important. You know, I did that. I know a lot of people, you know, sometimes that IAMS gets a lot of shtick, doesn't it? But, you know, you get the right instructor like I did, and I think you do learn. And I know it's kept me safe on the road. But that's another story, isn't it? But I think these little 125s are great. I would like another 125. I actually quite fancy a moped though. I do say that. I quite fancy a Vespa or something. So I'm gonna wiggle this bike back. Thanks to Billy's in Pulborough for letting me borrow the bike for the day. They are a Zontes main dealer, and they've got quite a lot of these. They've also got, as a plug for them, they've got their training centre, and they're doing the CBT and that there. And as I said, they're so popular. It's so popular. And you get a chance to ride these Zontes, and they've got all sorts of bikes there that you can use. But yeah, check out Billy's with their little training centre. It's a really good addition to what they do as a service. Great.
Right, thanks to Billy's again for letting me use the bike. So that's the Zontes Zt125 ZT, and pretty impressive it is too. Right, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.